Now, when we go into organizations, we rarely see one that is absolutely pure red zone or absolutely pure green zone. There's always little pockets of mixed in there. But generally, this will give you an idea of what the difference is. A red zone, it's low trust and high blame atmosphere. And because there's a lot of blaming and a lot of shaming going on there, people pretty much hold their feelings inside. They're much more guarded. They're not as open. They withhold their energy, and they're also very risk avoidant, because in a red zone organization, if you take a risk and something goes wrong, it doesn't turn out the way you hope it'll turn out, guess what happens? People get blamed. Heads were going to roll. So that's the discussion. Who's responsible for this mess? So what people do is they just avoid taking risks. Now, this is a disaster for any organization that needs people to be creative in order to thrive. It's not a very fun place to work. People are cynical and suspicious. And guess what? You have to pay people a lot more to stay in a red zone organization, because they're going to jump ship and move to a different organization the first opportunity they have, because it's unpleasant. In the green zone, it's almost a mirror image. It's high trust and low blame. People are much more open. They share their vision. They share their ideas. They're much more willing to take risks, because in a green zone organization, if you take a risk and something goes wrong, the conversation is a little bit different. The conversation is, what can we learn from this? How can we make sure this doesn't happen again? How can we improve what's going on, rather than who's going to get blamed? It's a much more pleasurable place to work, and people are there because they're internally motivated, not externally motivated, not simply because they're getting more pay. So then the question is, does this actually make a difference in organizations other than being a nicer place to work? There were a couple researchers named Cotter and Heskett that wanted to find that out. And so they chose 200 corporations. They were all listed on the New York Stock Exchange, so they're all big corporations with big sales. And they picked these 200 because they could be divided into one of two categories. One they called non-enhancing cultures, which fits very close to the red zone description. The other half was what they called enhancing cultures, which fits very closely to the green zone. And then they studied these corporations for 11 years. And the corporations were from, I think, like a dozen different industries, so it's very broad-based. It wasn't just focused on one industry. And after 11 years, this is what they found out. In the more eggs category of these corporations, the net income of the green zone companies improved 755% more than the red zone companies. Stock price grew 826% more in the green zone companies than the red zone, and revenue was up over 500% more in the green zone. For the lower mortality categories, the workforce of the green zone companies expanded almost 250% more than the red zone companies. So then the issue is, how do we move from the red zone into the green zone in organizations? And this is what the state of California wanted to know back in about the late 1980s. And we wanted to know this because we were spending a huge amount of money on conflict. And it wasn't just the cost of the conflict in terms of judges' salary like myself or the cost of the courtrooms. It was the lost productivity of those organizations. And so the state teamed up with the Hewlett Foundation. We got a lot of money to do some research. We did a massive amount of research, and then we put together a program that we thought would be effective for teaching really adversarial, highly conflicted organizations to be more collaborative. And we got it mostly right. We were off on a little bit. But we had a lot of remarkable results out of that, which I'm going to show you in a little bit. But looking back on the original research and some 20 years of follow-up, what we found